An unnamed woman, unarmed, slept like a child beside the corpse of a level 8.7 apex predator. No one understood where she came from, why the powerful predator died so unnaturally. But after just one night, the entire galaxy scrambled to claim ownership of this woman. This is the story of how an ordinary accountant suddenly became the focal point for the 17,000 most advanced species in the universe. In the far future, approximately 17,000 centuries since native species, including humans, had eaten each other, the galactic hegemony controlled everything. This alliance of 17,000 evolved species specialized in bureaucracy, paperwork, and committees to regulate the universe. Sector 847 Zeta had been quarantined for 3 centuries due to signs of extremely dangerous biological activity. The Apex Classification System, or ACS, as the sort of people who needed psychological clearance to read the table of contents called it, ranked threats from 1 to 10, with countless appendices, temporary amendments, and special designations. For example, a Vorthark, crystalline carapace, acid blood, 12 ft tall, received a classification of 8.7, requiring 43 specialists, a 50-kilometer containment zone, and 3 philosophers to handle the immediate trauma. Emily Carter was just a human accountant from Earth who had accidentally wandered into the restricted zone due to a quantum navigation map error. Her goal was simple: camp, sleep, drink morning coffee. Her personality remained casual, humorous, and remarkably ordinary in the face of impossible situations. The hegemony feared anything with fur or fangs. ACS protocols required forms, permissions, committees, and emergency meetings at the mere detection of a predator. Simultaneously, they prided themselves on scientific achievements: quantum computing, FTL ships, quark energy, while developing phobias about every mundane threat. The Tethkari survey ship Prudent Inquiry was monitoring containment levels in Sector 847 Zeta. While examining the third moon of Kepler 442c, the biological scanners angrily spiked. 2 suspicious signals were detected. First, a live-energy Vorthark classified as 8.7 apex predator. Second, a mundane signal initially assessed as background noise. The measurement devices jumped to 8.7, then beeped to report Class 0, human, almost simultaneously. According to protocol, they needed to maintain a 50-kilometer distance, file an emergency report, and wait for 43 additional specialists, including philosophers, psychological attachés, and military specialists. However, the signals were contradictory. ACS couldn't logically register both Class 8.7 and Class 0 simultaneously. Could they override protocol? But protocol dictated by Protocol stated, protocol cannot be overridden. The advanced team landed anyway. The team consisted of Vexi, senior survey technician; Calm, trying to rely on theory; Cathara, junior technician; Vague, suggesting equipment malfunction; BX Sky, assistant technician, specialized in soothing machines; 2 security officers, in bulletproof shells, only capable of maintaining panicked expressions inside their helmets; an EMT, emergency medical technician, preying upon hearing 8.7 apex predator. They made an emergency landing, in fully sealed suits, with palpable nervousness. Satellite equipment showed the landscape: dense forest against cliffs, with acid splatter from the predator's blood. Vexi faced an internal conflict. Designation prohibits approach, but equipment reports Class 0. Can protocol be ignored? Upon landing, they witnessed the Vorthark's body split in 2, its acid blood creating beautiful patterns like jewelry on the ground. Beside it, a woman, Emily, slept peacefully like a child, lying on her own jacket. The 2 security officers were so terrified they embraced each other, while the EMT said prayers. Vexi shook his head. This cannot be explained by protocol. Perhaps we need an emergency meeting. Emily was taken aboard the ship, straight to a guest room temporarily equipped for bipedals, on a ship designed for quadrupeds. Vexi and BX Sky continuously activated recording devices with 17,000 prepared questions. Who are you? Where do you come from? Do you have weapons? How did you defeat the Predator? Emily responded, I'm a human from Earth. An accountant. Yes. I slept under a tree. The Predator came to bite. I punched with a normal fist. Right leverage plus basic anatomy. Where's the coffee? I want coffee. Vexi tried to maintain professionalism, insisting, Please describe in detail how you defeated the Predator. Emily just smiled. Honestly, it lunged at me. I used my fist and broke its joint. Then I threw it into the bushes. An officer pressed urgently. Do you know the Predator is ACS classified as 8.7, requiring a minimum of 43 response personnel? Emily shrugged. Didn't know that. I just thought if it jumps at me to bite, I'll block and counter. BX Sky sent an online report to the Hegemony Council. Everyone was shocked. Information about Class 0 defeating Class 8.7. Military, philosophical, scientific, religious, and commercial councils all received urgent alerts. ACS immediately established a subcommittee on humans to analyze. Could humans be a threat level 12.0? Committees sprouted like mushrooms. 1. Military Committee. Suspected Emily had superior personal weaponry. Dispatched fleets to block the path to Earth. 2. Philosophy Committee. Post-ethical inquiry. Debated casual violence. Was Emily a post-ethical species? 3. Commerce Committee. Insurance Board. Worried that if humans became common, spacecraft insurance premiums would increase tenfold. 4. Religious Committee. Great Conclave of Animal Care. Debated whether Emily was a symbol of universal balance or a challenge of violence, etc. Emily kept asking, Where's the coffee? What time is my dentist appointment today? Driving Vexi to exasperation. The Tethkari crew nearly shot each other while arguing, Are humans more dangerous than Vortharks? ACS released a new appendix. Preemptive coffee designation, recommending anyone meeting a human should have coffee ready to maintain calm. An emergency Hegemony Council conference was called, with representatives from 17 cultural backgrounds, gathering via hologram. Admiral Keth Boren, Deputy Minister of Defense. If one individual can accomplish this, we need to deploy 5 more escort fleets to protect commercial routing systems. Professor Yathandro, Galactic University of Philosophy. This is a post-ethical event. Humans commit violence like animals, but they regard it as casually as insects. We must organize a 48-hour symposium on religion and violence. Zephyrian representative, sound-based. Could she create sound frequencies that destroy Vortharks undetectable by ACS? If so, we need to use it as sonic warfare weapons. Empathic collective representative. Doesn't such violence cause psychological trauma? Is emergency therapy service needed? Insurance Board. Representative. We recommend. Decide quickly whether Emily is Insurance Class X or Insurance Class Y. Any cost changes will affect 87% of interstellar shipping routes. Emily remained nonchalant, only interested in which civilization makes the best coffee and when can I go home. Everyone else fought over the right to own Emily like nationalizing a unicorn. Emily, exhausted from endless meetings, complained, When will someone answer just me? The situation escalated to absurdity. The Hegemony mobilized all rebel factions to report. Send congratulatory gifts to Emily. Propose deification, offer titles. Some sent war fleets. Others sent religious faith. And others sent billions in bank credits. ACS was forced to establish an additional appendix, human, subclass, due to complexity. Emily gradually realized, I'm just an accountant. Why must I bear the galaxy kneeling before me? She wondered, should I accept becoming an ambassador or idol, or should I fight to go home? She began expressing her loneliness. I miss my cat, miss hot coffee, miss accounting department paperwork. The Determination of Fate Conference, the largest conference call in the galaxy, was convened. Purpose: to adjudicate rights of ownership and use of Emily. Who would control knowledge exploitation? Who would be permitted to conduct research? Participants: 1. Hegemony Department of Defense Representatives. Philosophy Council. Major and Minor Religions. Insurance Board. Departments of Commerce, Science, Xenobiology, Ethical Oversight. Representatives from Zephyrian, Empathic Collective, Zephyrian Empire. Each representative used hologram magic to project scenarios about the future. We will arm humans as heavy mercenaries. We will deify Emily as the goddess of peace, violence, coffee leverage. We need to kidnap Emily to a private moon for genetic research. Tension peaked with 17 overlapping answers. Could there be an outer space war over an accountant? Hearing the delegates argue, Emily awoke. Enough, I just want to go home. She challenged. Why do you treat me like merchandise? I have a life on Earth, a cat, an office chair. Why not let me choose? Silence fell. Thousands of hologram images simultaneously froze. 17 languages fell silent. Emily turned off her microphone and walked out of the meeting room through a small door. Shouting and hasty discussions erupted. She appeared in a dark corridor, flashing lights, her skin smudged with sweat. I'm not property. I'm just a human. In that moment, the entire galaxy, from fleet admirals to aristocrats, realized their mistake. All assessments, all subcommittees, all conferences, just to deal with an ordinary woman. Lead investigator Q. Morrell appeared amidst burning hologram projectors. He carried a stack of interdimensional insurance procedure papers. Q. Morrell proposed. 1. Emily would be respected but not forced into any role. 2. Any camping trips or extraplanetary travel would be fully insured. 3. Emily would receive a galactic pension, in credits, exceeding the salary of most hegemony officials. 4. In exchange, Emily would agree to occasionally listen to representatives seeking practical solutions. Submit a minimum 4-page quarterly report on health, coffee, and travel status. The conference room fell silent. Q. Morrell placed his pen on the 17,000-page contract. Representatives of most civilizations signed. Emily signed a single page stating I, Emily Carter, agree to the above terms, and then left. Instead of fighting over ownership, they withdrew. Fleets disbanded. ACS reduced the human subclass appendix. Each side received different insurance packages and creative rights. Department of Defense may be used to train mercenaries. Philosophy achieved post-ethical morality. Religion canonized as balance angel. For the first time, Emily felt responsibility. Part of the galaxy expected her to be a protective entity. She wondered, should I accept a small role in this universe? Or just live an ordinary life? She rediscovered simple joys, a cup of coffee, images of her cat on Earth, her accounting desk. 6 months later, Emily's monthly report, summary. 1. Still alive. 2. Haven't killed any more predators. 3. Coffee remains scarce in 17 systems. 4. Proposing upgrade to interstellar coffee station network. 5. Health good. Dentist appointment kept. Emily camped throughout the galaxy, but always accompanied by escort fleets, standing 10,000 kilometers away for monitoring. She explored many planets, drank galactic versions of coffee, with flavors reminiscent of Earth coffee, sent map postcards to friends. Hey everyone, I'm still doing well. After the incident, The hegemony somewhat reduced bureaucracy. They opened classes in Pragmatic Problem-Solving 101 for officials. ACS was revised, 134 appendices removed, 17 multi-level classifications reduced. The Philosophy Council organized additional common-sense philosophy. Religion. Some temples still worshipped the Angel of Balance, but gradually shifted to images of Emily wearing a camping jacket. A notice appeared. Emily Carter is planning another camping trip to Nebula Z13, but it's unclear whether she's bringing coffee. And so, the ordinary accountant continued her bureaucratic tourism adventure, still carefree, still nonchalant. The final question of those days was no longer, will she do something grand, but will any planet be brave enough to send her coffee on her next camping trip? Vexi stepped carefully over the ridge, his six-legged frame trembling slightly as the atmospheric reading spiked again on his wrist scanner. The Tethkari survey technician had been in the Galactic Hegemony service for 27 years, and never, not once, had he encountered readings like these. Confirm sensor output, he whispered to his device, knowing full well the machine couldn't actually hear him. The Tethkari had a superstitious habit of speaking to their equipment, a cultural quirk that had survived 17 millennia of scientific advancement. His assistant, Cathara, moved up beside him, her breathing apparatus wheezing slightly. Senior technician, the readings persist. Bioform classification 8.7 and Class 0, simultaneously. Equipment malfunction possible? Vexi's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, the Tethkari equivalent of a human rubbing their temples in frustration. The prudent inquiry ran 3 calibration cycles. BX Sky performed the tertiary verification procedure. But protocol clearly states, Cathara began. I know what the protocol states, Vexi snapped, immediately regretting his unprofessional tone. Forgive me. The protocol is clear. Detection of Class 8.7 Apex Predator requires immediate withdrawal to safe distance, emergency reporting, and assembly of no fewer than 43 specialists, including 3 philosophers for immediate trauma counseling. Yet we continue approach, Cathara noted, her tone carefully neutral. Because the second reading is impossible. Class 0, human. There are no humans in Sector 847 Zeta. This sector has been quarantined for 3 centuries. The 2 security officers trailing behind them exchanged glances through their sealed helmets. The bulkier one, whose name tag read Morik, finally spoke up. Could we request clarification from Oversight? The dual classification may represent a new threat paradigm requiring... Oversight takes 16 cycles to process an appendix amendment request. Vexi interrupted. By then, whatever we're detecting could be... well, who knows? The ACS doesn't account for this scenario. The emergency medical technician, a slender Tethkari named Linnell, clutched a sanctified medical kit to his chest. The Vorthark alone is... concerning. The acid blood spatters can reach 19 meters. They can digest armor plating, Class 8.7 means. It means we follow Modified Containment Protocol TX-778, Section 9, Paragraph 18, said Vexi automatically. But the human reading. The last member of their party, BX Sky, was already tapping rapidly at his portable scanner. Recalibration complete. Both signals remain stable. The Apex Predator signal shows biological rhythm anomalies consistent with severe trauma. The human signal appears unremarkable. Unremarkable? A human in a restricted sector is hardly unremarkable, Vexi muttered. They crested the ridge and looked down into a small clearing nestled against the base of a cliff. The forest was dense here, filled with the blue-green vegetation native to Kepler 442c's third moon. The clearing wasn't natural. It had been created recently, violently. And there, in the center of the destruction, lay the body of a Vorthark. Its crystalline exoskeleton was shattered, acid blood creating intricate patterns on the ground like some macabre art installation. The creature's massive frame, easily 12 feet long, was unnaturally contorted, its primary joint structure clearly broken. But it was the second figure that froze the entire team in their tracks. A human woman lay sleeping peacefully beside the predator's corpse. She was using what appeared to be her own jacket as a pillow, curled slightly on her side, breathing evenly. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her face wore the expression of someone enjoying a pleasant dream. She might have been camping in some idyllic Earth park, rather than beside the remains of one of the galaxy's most feared predators. "That's—" Cathara couldn't finish her sentence. "Impossible," whispered Vexy. The two security officers instinctively moved closer together, their armor clinking as they sought mutual protection. Linnell, the EMT, was visibly praying, his inner eyelids fluttering in the pattern of the Great Supplication. BX Sky, ever the pragmatist, simply consulted his scanner. Human female, approximately 30 Earth years. No detectable weapons, augmentations, or anomalous energy signatures. The Vorthark is definitely deceased. "She killed it," Morik whispered inside his helmet, voice crackling through the comm system. "A human killed a Class 8.7 predator." "We don't know that," Vexy responded automatically, though he couldn't imagine any other explanation. Perhaps the Vorthark died of natural causes, and she simply happened upon it. "And decided to take a nap beside it?" Cathara's voice rose in pitch. "Nobody does that, nobody sane, anyway." "We need to—" Vexy began, but was interrupted by movement from below. The woman stirred, stretching languidly as though waking from the most ordinary sleep. She sat up, rubbed her eyes, and looked directly at the group of aliens standing frozen on the ridge. Her expression registered mild surprise, then curiosity, then something that looked remarkably like mild annoyance. "Good morning," she called up to them in perfectly standard galactic common. "Or whatever time of day it is here. Do any of you have coffee, by any chance?" The two security officers clutched each other in terror. Linnell fainted. Cathara made a small, strangled sound. Vexy, knowing full well that 17,000 years of galactic hegemony protocol offered absolutely no guidance for the situation, did the only thing he could think of. "This situation," he announced gravely, "will require an emergency meeting." The woman below sighed and began putting on her jacket. "It always does," she muttered, just loud enough for their audio enhancers to pick up. 3 hours, 17 minutes, and 42 seconds later, by the ship's chronometer. Emily Carter sat in what the Tethkari crew had hastily designated as a human-appropriate reception chamber. In reality, it was a cargo hold with a chair meant for quadrupeds that had been awkwardly modified to accommodate bipedal posture. Vexy sat across from her, flanked by BX Sky, who operated the recording equipment. The security officers remained by the door, their nervous energy palpable even through their sealed armor. Cathara stood ready with a translation matrix. Though Emily seemed to understand Galactic Common perfectly well, Linnell had recovered from his fainting spell, but insisted on monitoring the situation from the medical bay. "Let us begin again," Vexy said, attempting to sound authoritative. "Please state your full designation, origin, and purpose in Sector 847 Zeta." Emily sighed. "As I've told you 3 times now, I'm Emily Carter, human, from Earth. I work as an accountant for Transsolar Logistics. I was on vacation, camping, and my quantum positioning map must have glitched. I set up camp, went to sleep, and then your whatever it was attacked me in the night." "The Vorthark," Beak Sky supplied helpfully. "Right, the Vorthark. It lunged at me. I defended myself and then went back to sleep." She looked around the room impatiently. "Now, about that coffee?" Vexy's inner eyelids fluttered rapidly. "You defended yourself against a Class 8.7 Apex Predator. With what weapon system?" Emily held up her right fist. "This—" A moment of silence fell over the room. "Your appendage," Cathara finally asked. My fist, yes. It came at me. I sidestepped, and when it turned, I hit it right. She made a striking motion toward an imaginary target. There, basic anatomy, leverage. The joint broke. It thrashed around, spraying that acid stuff everywhere. Ruined my favorite camping pants, by the way. And then it died. I was tired, so I went back to sleep. Morik, the security officer, couldn't contain himself. Do you have any idea what you're describing? The Vorthark is ACS classified as 8.7. That requires a minimum response team of 43 trained specialists. Emily shrugged. Look, I don't know anything about your classification system. I just know that if something tries to eat me, I'm going to defend myself. But, Cathara seemed physically incapable of processing this information. The psychological trauma alone should have... Trauma? Emily raised an eyebrow. It attacked me. I defended myself. End of story. Why would I be traumatized? Vexi made a subtle gesture to Big Sky, who immediately began transmitting the interview recording to the Hegemony Council. This situation had escalated far beyond their authority. Ms. Carter, Vexi said carefully, your presence in a restricted sector is a violation of hegemony protocols. The death of an apex predator by unauthorized means represents a significant incident. Until we receive further instructions, you will remain aboard the Prudent Inquiry as our guest. Emily stretched and yawned. Fine by me, but I have a dentist appointment next Tuesday that I really shouldn't miss. And I'm still waiting on that coffee. As she spoke, the ship's communication system erupted with incoming transmissions. BX Sky's eyes widened as he monitored the flow of data. Senior technician, he whispered to Vexi. We're receiving priority alerts from 17 separate hegemony departments. The Military Committee, the Philosophical Oversight Board, the Religious Conclave, the Insurance Regulators. Everyone wants information about the human. Vexi felt a sinking sensation in all four of his stomachs. Activate conference protocol, he said wearily. It seems Ms. Carter is about to become the most discussed entity in the galaxy. Emily, seemingly oblivious to the chaos she had unleashed, was examining her fingernails with mild interest. So, about that coffee? She asked again. Within 6 hours, the Prudent Inquiry had become the focal point of the most complex bureaucratic storm in recent hegemony history. The ship's communication systems struggled to manage the constant influx of demands, inquiries, and directives from across the galaxy. In the hastily assembled briefing room, Vexi attempted to maintain order as holographic representatives from various hegemony departments flickered in and out of existence around the circular table. Emily sat in the center, looking increasingly bored as the debate raged around her. Admiral Kethborin, Deputy Minister of Defense, dominated one section of the holographic assembly. His massive four-armed frame seemed barely contained by the projection field. The military implications cannot be overstated, he was saying, voice booming. If a single unarmed human can neutralize a Class 8.7 threat with minimal effort, we must immediately reassess our defense parameters. I propose deploying 5 additional battle fleets to secure the routes between here and Earth. To what end, Admiral? Professor Yathandro interjected, her slender, ethereal form shimmering as she spoke. The representative from the Galactic University of Philosophy gestured with translucent hands. This is clearly a post-ethical event. The human displays casual violence capability paired with complete moral detachment from the act itself. We must organize a full 48-hour symposium on the philosophical implications. The representative from the Zepyrian Collective, a crystalline structure that communicated through modulated sound waves, chimed in with a resonant hum. Our analysis suggests the possibility that humans may generate undetectable destructive frequencies. Did your scanners register any sonic anomalies during the encounter? None, BX Sky replied, checking his records for the third time. No weapons, no augmentations, no technology beyond standard civilian equipment. Impossible, insisted a bulbous entity, representing the empathic collective. Such violence must generate significant psychological disruption. Our empaths detect no trauma signature from the human. This defies all known emotional response patterns. Emily cleared her throat loudly, causing several holograms to flicker in surprise. "Excuse me," she said calmly, "but I'm sitting right here. If you have questions about humans, you could just ask me directly." The assembled representatives fell silent, seemingly astonished at being addressed by the subject of their debate. "Very well," said the insurance board representative, a meticulously groomed humanoid with 16 fingers, constantly in motion. "We have a pressing concern. Your species represents an unclassified risk factor. Are all humans capable of neutralizing apex predators with minimal effort? Or are you an outlier?" Emily considered this. "I've never taken a survey, but I guess many humans could do what I did if they had to. Basic self-defense. Nothing special." The holographic assembly erupted in overlapping exclamations, demands for clarification, and hurried side conversations. The insurance representative's fingers moved in a blur as he calculated risk adjustments. "This will necessitate a complete recalibration of our premium structure," he muttered. "If humans become common in hegemony space, vessel insurance rates could increase by factors of—" "What I want to know," Emily interrupted again, "is which civilization makes the best coffee, and when can I go home? I have a cat that needs feeding and a job that probably won't wait forever." The philosophical representative drifted closer to Emily, studying her with keen interest. "You display remarkable indifference to your situation. Are all humans so detached?" "I'm not detached," Emily replied. "I'm practical. Getting worked up doesn't solve problems. And right now, my problems are, I need coffee, I need to get home to my cat, and I need to make my dentist appointment on Tuesday." The military representative leaned forward, his hologram dominating the space. "Your strategic capabilities cannot be overlooked. The Hegemony Defense Force would consider it a matter of galactic security to study your combat techniques." "I don't have combat techniques," Emily said, making air quotes with her fingers. "I have common sense and 2 fists. Now, can someone please answer my questions?" Vexi, seeing the conversation spiraling into chaos again, attempted to intervene. "Perhaps we should allow Ms. Carter some rest while the council deliberates. This situation is unprecedented and requires careful—" He was interrupted by a cascade of new holographic arrivals, each demanding priority. Representatives from the Religious Conclave, the Xenobiological Research Institute, the Commercial Registry, and at least a dozen other hegemony departments crowded into the projection space, their overlapping voices creating a cacophony of bureaucratic noise. Emily stood up abruptly, silencing the room. "I've had enough of this. You're all talking about me like I'm some kind of specimen or weapon or puzzle to solve. I'm a person. I have a life that I'd like to get back to. So unless someone has actual coffee or information about when I can leave, I'm going to find somewhere quiet to sit." She walked out of the briefing room, leaving the assembled representatives of the most powerful entities in the galaxy staring after her in stunned silence. "Most unusual behavior," the philosophical representative murmured. "Complete disregard for authority structures." "Tactical withdrawal," assessed the military representative. "Strategic repositioning." "Emotional self-regulation," suggested the empathic representative. Vexi, watching Emily's retreating form, felt a strange mixture of awe and concern. "I believe," he said quietly, "that we may be entirely unprepared for humans." Over the next 24 hours, the situation escalated beyond anyone's expectations. The news of a human defeating a Class 8.7 predator with her bare hands spread through the hegemony like wildfire. Speculation, analysis, and outright panic followed in its wake. The ACS Emergency Subcommittee hastily convened to create a new classification specifically for humans, initially designating them as Class 0, with anomalous combat potential. This was quickly revised to Class 0X, then Class Undefined pending further assessment, and finally, Human Subclass, when they couldn't agree on a proper designation. Emily, meanwhile, had discovered the ship's galley and somehow convinced the food synthesizer to produce a bitter black liquid that approximated coffee. She sat alone, sipping it contemplatively, while the entire galaxy debated her fate. Vexi found her there, looking surprisingly at peace despite the chaos she had inadvertently unleashed. "Ms. Carter," he began hesitantly, "I must inform you that the Hegemony Council has called for a full determination of fate conference regarding your situation." Emily took another sip of her synthetic coffee and grimaced slightly. "That sounds ominous. What does it mean?" "It is the highest level of deliberative assembly," Vexi explained. "Representatives from all major civilizations will gather to determine your official status within the hegemony framework." "My status?" Emily raised an eyebrow. "I'm a human being, that's my status." "It's more complicated than that," Vexi said, his inner eyelids fluttering anxiously. "Some factions view you as a potential military asset. Others see you as a philosophical anomaly. The religious conclave has already begun debating whether you represent some form of cosmic balance manifestation." Emily set down her cup with a sigh. "All because I defended myself against one predator?" "A Class 8.7 predator," Vexi corrected automatically. "With no weapons, no training, and no apparent psychological distress afterward. You must understand how unprecedented this is." "What I understand," Emily said, "is that your entire galaxy seems to run on committees, subcommittees, classifications, and endless meetings. Does anyone ever just do things?" Vexi blinked rapidly, the question striking him as fundamentally bizarre. "We follow protocol. It ensures safety, predictability, proper resource allocation. It ensures you spend more time talking about problems than solving them." Emily interrupted. "Where I come from, we have a saying, analysis paralysis. That's what your hegemony has." Before Vexi could respond, BX Sky rushed into the galley, his breathing apparatus wheezing with exertion. "Senior technician, the determination of fate conference is beginning. They're demanding the human's presence immediately." Emily drained the last of her coffee approximation and stood up. "Let's get this over with. But I want it on record that all I want is to go home, see my cat, and make my dentist appointment." "Your preferences have been noted in 17 separate forms," Vexi assured her, leading the way to the main conference chamber. The determination of fate conference was unlike anything Emily had ever experienced. The Prudent Inquiry's modest conference room had been transformed by holographic technology into a vast amphitheater, with tier upon tier of seats, occupied by representatives from across the galaxy. Some appeared in forms recognizable to human perception. Others were merely abstract patterns of light and color. All were focused intently on Emily as she entered. At the center of the chamber stood a raised platform with a single chair, clearly modified from non-human specifications, but made to accommodate her bipedal form. Emily took her seat, feeling like a defendant in the most elaborate trial ever conceived. The proceedings began with a formal recitation of the incident, delivered by a rotating consortium of speakers from different hegemony departments. Emily listened with growing incredulity as her simple act of self-defense was analyzed, dissected, and imbued with significance far beyond anything she had intended. Representing a fundamental challenge to established classification parameters. The demonstrating combat efficiency exceeding military-grade training protocols by factors of the philosophical implications for the nature of sentient response to existential threat scenarios. After what seemed like hours, the actual deliberations began, One by one, representatives from major factions presented their proposals for Emily's fate. The military committee, represented by Admiral Keth Baran, proposed that Emily be designated a strategic asset of galactic significance, to be studied, replicated if possible, and potentially weaponized against threats to hegemony stability. The Philosophical Oversight Board suggested a comprehensive research program to understand the post-ethical consciousness that allowed humans to commit violence without apparent moral distress. The religious conclave had already begun preparations to recognize Emily as an avatar of balanced retribution, with temple constructions planned across 17 systems. The commercial registry saw tremendous potential in human-derived security methodologies, projecting market valuations in the trillions of credits. Throughout it all, Emily sat silently, her expression growing increasingly distant. She thought about her apartment back on Earth, her cat waiting for her, the stack of accounting reports she had left unfinished, the sheer absurdity of her situation, being treated as a galactic marvel for simply punching something that tried to eat her, struck her with full force. As the Xenobiological Research Institute representative began detailing plans to establish a human observation habitat, where Emily would live under constant surveillance, something inside her snapped. "Enough!" Her voice cut through the chamber, silencing the ongoing presentation mid-sentence. All eyes, sensory appendages, and perception arrays turned toward her. "I have listened to hours of you all discussing me like I'm some kind of commodity to be claimed, studied, or worshipped. None of you have actually asked what I want." "Your preferences were noted," began one representative. "Noting my preferences isn't the same as respecting them," Emily interrupted. "I am a person, not a resource. I have a life on Earth, a job, a home, a cat that depends on me. I didn't ask to become some galactic sensation." She stood up from her chair, addressing the entire assembly. "Why are you treating me like property to be claimed? I made a choice to defend myself against something that attacked me. That doesn't give any of you the right to decide my future." The chamber fell into stunned silence. Thousands of holographic forms froze in place, as though the entire bureaucratic machinery of the hegemony had suddenly encountered an error it couldn't process. Emily took advantage of the moment to walk calmly toward the exit. No one moved to stop her. She passed through the door and found herself in a quiet corridor, the lights flickering slightly as the ship's systems struggled to maintain the massive holographic conference. She leaned against the wall, suddenly tired. "I'm not property," she whispered to herself. "I'm just a human." Inside the conference chamber, chaos erupted. Voices overlapped in 17 different languages. Demands were made. Objections were raised. The military committee threatened to deploy forces to secure the asset. The Philosophical Board called for emergency ethical recalibration. The religious conclave began debating whether this was, in fact, the prophesied test of acceptance. Amidst the pandemonium, a new figure appeared in the center of the chamber. Unlike the other representatives, this one appeared in person, a tall, slender being with silver-gray skin and immaculately pressed attire. He carried what appeared to be an actual physical stack of papers, bound in some kind of leather-like material. The chamber gradually fell silent as the newcomer placed his documents on the central podium and adjusted a small device at his throat. "Representatives of the hegemony," he began, his voice calm and measured. "I am lead investigator Q. Morrell of the Galactic Insurance Board. While you have all been debating ownership and utilization rights, you have overlooked a fundamental legal consideration." He tapped the stack of documents. "The Interdimensional Sentient Rights Accord, Section 7, Paragraph 12, clearly states, no sentient being may be classified as property, research subject, or strategic asset without explicit multilateral consent and comprehensive compensation agreement." Admiral Keth Boran's hologram loomed forward. "The security of the hegemony supersedes." It supersedes nothing, Q. Morrell interrupted smoothly. Unless you wish to invalidate the insurance policies covering your entire fleet. Admiral, the risk assessment implications would be substantial. That silenced the military contingent immediately. No one, not even the Defense Department, could function without valid insurance coverage. I have prepared a comprehensive agreement, Q. Morrell continued, that will satisfy all legal requirements while respecting the autonomy of the human, Emily Carter. He outlined the terms. Emily would be recognized as a galactic protected entity, with full autonomy over her own decisions and movements. Any camping trips or extraplanetary travel would be fully insured against all standard and exotic risks. Emily would receive a galactic consultation stipend in credits exceeding the salary of most hegemony officials. In exchange, Emily would agree to occasionally listen to representatives seeking her practical insights, and to submit a quarterly report on her general well-being and activities. This arrangement, Q. Morrell concluded, satisfies all legal requirements, provides reasonable accommodation for hegemony interests, and respects the fundamental rights of the individual. The chamber remained silent as the implications settled in. One by one, representatives began to signal their acceptance, some enthusiastically, others grudgingly. The alternative, a complete restructuring of galactic insurance policies, was simply too disruptive to contemplate. Q. Morrell found Emily in the corridor outside, still leaning against the wall. "Ms. Carter," he said, his voice gentle, "I believe we have a solution that may be acceptable to you." Emily looked up, studying the unusual being before her. "You're different from the others. I am an insurance adjuster," Q. Morrell said, as though that explained everything. In a way, it did. "My concern is practical risk management, not theoretical possibilities." He explained the proposed agreement, emphasizing the parts that guaranteed her freedom and autonomy. You would be free to return to Earth, to your cat and your dentist appointment. The hegemony would provide resources, not requirements. Emily considered this. "And all I have to do is write a report every few months and occasionally listen to people's problems?" "Essentially, yes. The hegemony is unaccustomed to practical solutions. Your perspective has value." "That sounds suspiciously like my job description back on Earth," Emily said with a small smile. "I'm an accountant. I listen to people's problems and help them organize practical solutions." "Then you are well qualified," Q. Morrell said, returning her smile with his own species equivalent, a slight shimmer across his silver-gray skin. Emily took the document he offered. A single page amidst the thousands that made up the full agreement. It stated simply, "I, Emily Carter, agree to the terms outlined above." She signed it with the odd crystalline pen Q. Morrell provided. "I hope you know what you're doing," she said. "Insurance is about managing the unexpected," Q. Morrell replied. "And you, Ms. Carter, are the most unexpected thing the galaxy has encountered in quite some time." 6 months later, Emily sat on the edge of a cliff overlooking the azure plains of Taros Prime, sipping actual Earth-imported coffee from a thermal mug. The hegemony had gone to extraordinary lengths to ensure her camping trips were well supplied, particularly with coffee. The preemptive coffee directive had become standard protocol for any human interaction. Far above, visible only as tiny glints of light in the purple-tinged sky, the escort fleet maintained their discreet, monitoring position. Emily waved occasionally, knowing it made the security officers nervous when she got too close to edges. She opened her portable terminal and began composing her quarterly report. 1. Still alive. 2. Haven't killed any more predators. 3. Coffee remains scarce in 17 systems, though improving. 4. Proposing upgrade to interstellar coffee station network. 5. Health good. Dentist appointment kept. She added a personal note at the end. Remind insurance board that my cat needs premium coverage too. He knocked over another plant yesterday. The initial frenzy over her unprecedented capabilities had gradually subsided. The military committee had eventually accepted that Emily's technique against the Vorthark couldn't be weaponized into some galaxy-changing superweapon. It was just a well-placed punch with good timing. The philosophical board had incorporated practical problem-solving into their curriculum, a revolutionary concept in hegemony education. The religious conclave had scaled back their temple construction plans, though a few fringe sects still maintained shrines featuring images of Emily in her camping jacket. Most significantly, the ACS had undergone its first major revision in 7 centuries, eliminating 1,234 redundant appendices and simplifying 17 classification levels. The human subclass designation had been replaced with the more manageable Class 0P, P for practical. Emily closed her terminal and took another sip of coffee, enjoying the view. Her life had changed in ways she never could have imagined, yet somehow remained fundamentally the same. She still solved problems, still maintained organized records, still enjoyed quiet moments with a good cup of coffee. The fact that she now did these things across multiple star systems was just an accounting adjustment. Her communicator chimed with an incoming message. It was from Vexy, who had become something of a friend despite their rocky start. Notification: Emily Carter is planning another camping trip to Nebula Z13. Security escort preparing standard protocols. Unclear if she's bringing coffee supplies. Emily smiled and typed a response. Tell them I'm bringing coffee this time. Enough to share. She packed up her small camp, carefully folding her jacket, the same one she had used as a pillow that fateful night beside the Vorthark. So much fuss over one simple act of self-defense. The galaxy had expected her to be a warrior, a philosopher, a goddess, or a weapon. All she had ever been was a practical woman who knew when to punch and when to pour another cup of coffee. As her small shuttle lifted off toward the waiting transport ship, Emily thought about the quarterly reports stacking up in some vast hegemony archive. Future historians might someday study them, looking for profound insights or the secret to her power. They would find only the record of an ordinary accountant's extraordinary vacation, camping trips across the stars, notes about coffee quality on different planets, and occasional complaints about bureaucratic inefficiency. Not the saga of a galactic legend, but the diary of a woman who had simply refused to be anything other than herself. And perhaps, Emily thought as the shuttle docked with the massive transport ship, that was the most revolutionary act of all.